to another edition of I'm Just Saying. I'm R.L. Cooper along with Bruce Turner, and we're going to get into some things again this evening. Each time that we're away from you all, it appears that news never stops. The news never stops, and a racial component to everything. My colleague Bruce Turner says there's not one thing that it's not in. And we're going to explore some of those things tonight. We're going to talk about the Tulsa massacre. We're going to delve into the sinister, the evil, and the satanic ideology behind what took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma back in 1921. Also, we're going to deal with Black agents, particularly in sports, how they do not represent white players, or white players don't get Black agents, American players. That's two things that we want to talk about. And then I think Bruce is going to talk about some things as well. So I tell you this, buckle up, wherever you're calling in from, whether you're from Washington, D.C. area, Los Angeles, California, Altaloma, California, we welcome you and we thank you that you're here. Tonight is I'm Just Saying. That's it. Yeah, that's what's up. What's the shirt say? Support what, Bruce?
So okay, yeah, so,
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so, and we all Black. Yeah, sorry, can you see that? I guess you can't see that.
Support Black. Support Black. A shirt. Oh,
yeah.
That's what's up. That because we, you know what? If we don't, who will? Because it appears that no one will. So I want to jump right into it. I appreciate you with us again tonight, Bruce. We missed last week, and we've got tons of things to kind of catch up on, and we're going to do that. Let's jump right into this thing with the Tulsa massacre.
Yep.
Now, I was reading in Isabel Wilkerson's book, The Origins of Our Discontent, and it began speaking about this Charles Rowland, I believe the gentleman was, who was going into an elevator. And this is crazy because if you haven't heard about it, I told one of my colleagues on the show, my partners on here, that I didn't hear really about the Tulsa massacre until age 45. So with this gentleman had gone into an elevator. I guess he was working. This is crazy. He was working down the street and he needed to use the bathroom. He couldn't use the bathroom where he was. So they had him go down the street and go up to the top floor to use the bathroom. That's where the colored folk, the Black folks had. Upon doing that, he encountered a young lady on the elevator.
She was working on the elevator.
She was an elevator. Yeah, she was the elevator, I guess, taking people up and down. Had never seen a woman being an elevator operator, if you will. The story appears to get foggy because obviously she and that gentleman are the only one on the elevator. She made some allegations of what he did, may have said something, or even assaulted her. Whoever she told, he was arrested. and this was believing, and when we were watching this on the television, that they believed that what information they had, there was about to be a lynching, a real one. Mm-hmm. We've got enough information that we're going to take him for wherever he is. He had gone to court, and we're going to come to the court or to the jail, take him out of the jail, and we're going to hang him. Mm-hmm. Black folks heard of this, and they mounted up. They mm-hmm. mounted up and went down to the courthouse to basically say, we understand what the situation, we heard what happened, but that's not going to happen. You're not taking him. Mm-hmm. They came gun-toting. Mm-hmm. More people came, more Europeans came, more white folks came with their guns, and they began to set the courthouse on fire. Basically, we're going to burn him out of here. He didn't come down, but something was taking place in front of the courthouse. Because when you start getting a group of people just being in college and stuff is about to pop off, you got guns, somebody else got a gun. Mm-hmm. Drew, you understand this, that if something is happening, something is about to go off, and we ain't here with our where it used to be just, all right, you knock the stick off his shoulder. No, we here, everybody packing that particular day. Somehow a gunshot goes off. Somebody fired something in the air. No one, they believe that no one got shot, but somebody fired in the air, and all hell breaks loose. What took place in the next 18 hours this is what I understand. What took place in the next 18 hours, because of this gentleman who they believe had assaulted this white girl, burned this 36 square block radius to the ground. Mm-hmm. When I say burn it, if you're listening to this, when I say burn it to the ground, burned everything that was anything, to houses, businesses, crops, burned everything to the ground. Telling one of the partners on here tonight that there was an ordering of airplanes. I didn't understand that. What are you talking about? Yeah, airplanes with bombs, with guns on their airplanes, for shooting down and dropping bombs on Tulsa. And I asked the question, who ordered that? Who ordered bombs to be dropped? Who said, yeah, send those? People were beginning to talk about Al-Qaeda wasn't the first. The 9/11 when Afghanistan, that wasn't the first on American soil. 9/11 was not the first American. Pearl Harbor was not the first on American soil. 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the first airstrike, if you will. Mm-hmm. The first airstrike. Now,
on other Americans.
Yes. I'm talking about when I say 9 square blocks east, west, north, and south, if I drove 9 blocks and then drove 9 the other way, this is a pretty large concentrated area.
Yeah.
Of homes, of a city, of a community. Mm-hmm. The question is, I asked all of you all tonight, they said that today would have been about 250 million. And then it was about $2 million worth, 1921. Now it would be $250 million. And I think that's a rough estimate, because that type of square footage, why, ladies and gentlemen, those that are listening, why did I burn it down? Why, Tulsa? Why? They talked about the Sanders, the person who possibly would have been the Marriott of that time, was the Marriott of that time. He would have been, we're talking about generational wealth from 1921 to now. Mm-hmm. That's what he would have, and you wiped out. And do I want to say government did this? Did the government do this? Was it the government of Oklahoma, or did the feds get involved and say, let's burn this whole thing down? Let's burn it down.
I think, Coop, I don't know if you can say, this is where like stuff gets tricky. I don't know if you can say the feds did it. Can you say government did it? Can you say the city government did it? I think that's more of a
Planes, Bruce.
possibility. But that's
Planes.
what, yeah. But when we say planes, people were pilots back then who lived in the area, and they got in their planes and bombed a black neighborhood.
Guns on your planes? You had guns on your plane?
Or you are, these aren't jet fighters. I don't think it's.
You're right. I got that. You're right. Right.
Propeller planes, and you got your gun, and you fly low, and do your thing. Can I just say though? So the story that you told, I've heard, like you said, it gets muddy, it gets cloudy because no one really knows what happened. I've heard things that the black guy who was using the elevator and the girl who was white may have been dating.
Wow.
So no one really knows that they could have been dating, and someone saw this and reported it, and then it got into the newspapers, and then stuff just goes like wildfire, and then parents or fathers or racist fathers start getting their friends, and all that kind of stuff happened. I mean, it could have been that. It could have been. I heard this too, that he could have been on the elevator, and those elevators back in the day were older. Maybe there was a sudden jerk in the elevator, and he lost his balance or something. I mean, it could have been anything. What we are pretty sure about is that he didn't attack this lady.
That's correct.
Okay, so but that's what the story becomes. He attacked her, and then you have to protect white purity at all costs, and that's how all this stuff goes out. This story sounds very familiar though to the Emmett Till story.
Yes.
There was and there are all kind of other lynchings or stuff like that where the white woman is supposedly being manhandled by the black savage, and that's how these lynchings started. Now, of course, there's no court case here. Even if there is a court case here,
because no one got arrested. No one got arrested. My man never was charged. I thought I heard that too, that the black guy was never charged. That's right. Because what you have, there was not. What would you be charging him with? What was the charge?
Yes. So I mean, all of this. What it sounds like to me, what happened is that really there was some people were looking for an excuse to get after these black people who they may have been envious of. They were able to, have not a closed off society per se. I'm sure there was economic, going back and forth between the white and the black community, but it sounds like the dollar did travel in the black circles 26 times before it left.
They did. That's right. They did say that.
So this was a legitimate economy. There were barbershops, there were places to eat. You know what I'm saying? So you had your own kind of thing. It was named Black Wall Street from W.E.B. Du Bois. I mean, just all this stuff that is, when you think about it, it's really, that's the other thing. The thing about Tulsa, Greenwood, was that it wasn't the only city destroyed during, not necessarily at this time, but during these surrounding times. You can look at all kinds of cities all over the country where black people were thriving or on the edge of thriving or just living, and white people just come in and take. Ta-Nehisi Coates uses the term plunder.
Yes. Pillage.
Yes. So like people came in like they call us savages, but they actually came in like savages and took people's property.
Mhm.
They burn it down and then they take it. Okay.
Yeah.
With there's no retribution for the people who took people's property, who burned other people's property down.
Bruce, that's what you've been talking about all week and in the previous weeks. That's whiteness. That
Yes.
when I came to America, the Native Americans that were here, because don't call them Indians because that's derogatory. The Native Americans that were here, what we're going to do is we're going to take.
Take.
This is what we're going to do. So Tulsa, we are our own. We're enforcing. We're not enforcing. We're our own law. We are the law. So we're going
Yes.
to, and that was. I think that's almost vigilante style. You heard
It
something? We
is.
just gonna go. We just gonna go, and we're gonna handle this. That's a. Because the thought of that is, we're gonna handle this Tulsa thing, and you all won't be heard or seen from as it relates to an economic. You will not want to come back here. You're looking at this stuff.
It's terrorism.
Yeah. People, they went back to nothing. There was
Yes.
nothing there.
Yes.
Not your. They told Sanders that if he came out the hotel, we'd save your hotel. He came out of his hotel and they burned his hotel down. Burned it down.
So Rodney and Bruce, sorry about the technical difficulties getting to the show. And we have to think about this. We're talking about bombs being dropped on American soil,
On
in
American
America,
citizens.
on American
On American
citizens. You can't tell me, Bruce. I understand. I heard something about normal citizen having planes and fly, bro. There's no way that a plane is dropping bomb on American soil without governmental permission. That was an authorized,
That's
an
what I
authorized, an authorized hit.
Okay. But
Hit on America, on African Americans, because these Negroes got too uppity.
I'm not saying
Listen, hold on. Let me say this, because this. Yes, let me tell you. No,
or progressive. Progressive.
No. Now you talking about white. We talking about master's eyes. Anytime we start becoming successful, educated, producing, we're uppity, because a black man in America is only supposed to be a field hand. We're only supposed to generate wealth for the master, not for ourselves. So this community had been on the radar of the government for a while, because God forbid that other Tulsas started popping up, like Harlem or in Chicago or in Detroit or New Orleans. Let's not get this thing multiplying by a factor of 5, because now these black folks got a voice. Once all they needed was an incident. They needed one incident, one strike of a match to start the flame to destroy this. They were waiting, bro. There's no way to just planes. We're talking about planes on American soil. That's governmental.
I said that earlier.
Whether it's state or federal, it was government backed.
We don't disagree. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is, when Coop said, "Is it a federal thing?" I mean, we don't. No one knows if it was federal. What I'm I guess making the point is, I believe there was an authorization given out. I believe that. But to say that, when you say federal, that to me that sounds like presidential, and that's not what I think happened. What I think happened was, okay. So one of the things that they said during the documentary that I saw is that there are records of people who were involved in the insurrection, like the names of people. And these people were teachers in the community. They were cops. They were they owned farms. They were doctors. They were lawyers. These white people in Tulsa, these white people, some of them may have been in the Klan. They were deputized by the city government. So this is what I'm saying. So if you are a Klansman, but you're a teacher, you're a lawyer, you're whatever, and the police commissioner tells you, go ahead, do your thing. That's what I mean by deputized. So they go get in their planes. They own a farm and they do crop dusting or whatever. They get into their plane and now they're flying over. They have that kind of access. And then they are the ones who are dropping Molotov cocktails and they got their guns going. That's what I think happened. So I don't think it was, somebody made a call from Washington, D.C. and said, yeah, y'all need to drop. I don't think that's what happened. So that's what I'm saying. When we talk about government, I think sometimes we have to be clear on what we're talking about. Are we talking about the federal government? Are you talking about the state government? Are you talking about the city government? Are you talking about a more local government?
So here's
those governments are run by political figures who are, in this case, racist. Okay. So we can't just say government is bad, because it's not always.
No, but Bruce, here's my problem. After Tulsa took place, where was the investigation? Where was
there's no investigations for whiteness.
But no, hear me out. When there's no accountability when the government doesn't hold accountability for an attack on American soils of American, then to me, it may not have been government sanctioned, but it was, excuse my French, damn sure government approved. Because when you don't investigate it, you approve it. When you don't arrest anybody, you approve it.
You're seeing the same thing now with the 1-6 insurrection. There's a party. So there's a government, yes, and there are people who are in that government who are running it, who are saying, I'm not voting for a 1-6 commission because I don't want that study. Because you're right. What you're saying is, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
you're sanctioning it. But to say that it's the government, I think, is a step too far, because it's not the government. It's people who are racist in the government. They are in power in the government.
By the government.
These people, they're empowered by the government because they're empowered by the government is made of the people, is what I'm saying. So, we put these people in office. These people who voted against the 1-6 commission have voters. People voted for them.
That's right.
They are okay with that. They're okay with the insurrection. They're okay so they were okay with Tulsa burning down. They were okay with that.
Let's talk about 1-6.
Which means that there's somebody, hold up, Drew, which means that they're the racist people that you are talking about in the government are these same people that suppress the insurrection commission.
Yes.
That's the racist. The Tulsa, what you're talking about, Drew, is that we're not having an investigation. That's the racist people, possibly in Tulsa, whoever's going on with it, that said, it's enough of us, wink, wink, in this, that we're not going to do that. That's not going to happen.
We're not going to charge the people. We're not going to charge them. We are going to destroy these black people, and we're going to take their land. We're going to do things to take their stuff. And no one is going to be held accountable for that. No one. Because they run the government.
So that goes back. Okay. So
stop voting for Republicans.
So let's talk about this 1-6 commit. Let's talk about this 1-6 commission vote or non-vote, or even the thing that came for it to come up. Do Americans really want to know the truth about that?
I think some Americans do want to know.
Okay, so here's what it does, though. We always talk about how we
want to know. Not America. Do you want to know?
Yeah. See, no. Here's the thing. No. I don't need to know what I already know. You don't have to prove to me what I saw. Mm-hmm. You know, I saw it. You saw it, Bruce. You saw it, Cool. Mm-hmm. We know what it was. What's understood don't need to be said to me. So my thing is, what are we having the commission for? To say what we already know is true? But there's an insurrection.
So hold
on 1 second, bro. Hold on, because I'm my thought is America really don't want that information, that commission to exist, because what it does is it puts validation to the dysfunction of our country for the world to see. They saw it, but once we start investigating and putting that thing on paper and in writing on TV, now everybody knows and sees that this thing happened and it's legit and it's been proven by. They don't want that. Even there, I'm gonna tell you like this: they're quietly Democrats who probably don't want that picture to be painted across the globe.
There may be Democrats. I don't know of any. There may be, but I'm not putting it past anyone. But I'm American. You're American. Cooper's American. I know other white liberal Americans who want to know exactly what happened, who want people who are in parties, Republican parties, who were part of the insurrection, who we will never know if they were if we don't do the actual investigation. They want those people called out. But people in power, Republicans in power, don't want to be called out, so they're not going to vote for it. It's the same thing that happened with Trump and him being impeached twice. He did things that were clearly against our government. But people in power draw their power from his voters, and they don't want to they don't want to anger Trump's voters. They know it was wrong. They don't want to anger Trump's voters, so we're going to let him off the hook. He'll learn. He won't do it again. Then he does it again. And so he gets impeached again. And these same people won't throw him out of office because that's where they derive their own power from. They derive their power from these people. So I'm saying it's deeper than, I want to know. There's some people who want to know. We have to have power over these people who don't want to know. And right now, there's not enough people in Congress. And even that is wrong to say, because did you know that when the commission vote was 56 to 44? So 56 people, some of the Republicans, wanted the commission.
Yes.
But we're not, and that's more than the majority. But we're not getting the commission because of the filibuster. You need 60 votes, not 56.
That's that Chris Hayes vote too. That Philip, but that thing, I think there was a super something going on with that. That's it.
Yeah, it's called the filibuster. Makes it so any vote will only pass if you have a super majority.
That's what
they call it.
That's right.
Yes. The super majority used to be 66. Now it's 60. So that means you got to have 10 Republicans to vote for the commission. You only have 6. So you have a majority. You don't have a super majority. This is how Republicans stay in power and how they make it so we can't pass things that implicate them. This is why the filibuster must go. Now, I know we're talking about Tulsa, but the same thing probably happened back then. Who in power is going to ransack an area, take people's land, and then say, hold me accountable for that? They're not going to do that. No one. They're not going to do that. And they're in power. Power is what allows people to be held accountable. We didn't have the power then. We don't have the power now. Did you know that they raised $30 million for the Tulsa events that were going to happen? 30 million.
Yeah, yeah.
The white group who was doing the Tulsa, they're going to bring in John Legend and all these people. Raised $30 million. Did you know that the black people said, y'all should give some of that money to the descendants?
That's right.
Y'all should give them $10 million. You shouldn't raise all this money to commemorate something, and then we just have this commemoration and then everything goes back to the same. We should raise this money to help the community that was destroyed.
That's right.
Republicans don't want to do that. So they raised the money, canceled the events. So they still got the 30 million. They canceled the events, and the black people still do their events, but the 30 million is never going to the people who were ruined, because we don't have the power. We don't have the power politically to make it happen.
And that's what we're, and Drew kind of switched gears to January 6th, and then we're back to Tulsa. The fact that what people are calling and what government called urban renewal, and them showing Tulsa, and even here in Detroit, it was called Black Bottom. I've talked to my aunts and uncles about Black Bottom, that highway of 375 going to
Haynes Drive.
Yep.
Haynes Drive, Hastings Street, all of that.
Hastings Street, yeah.
I'm calling these types of activities, Tulsa, Black Bottom, is sinister. I mean, it's really sinister, because what's wrong with you thriving in your own community, but you're a part of the bigger community as well? What's wrong with that? And I just really want to know if anybody's listening tonight to state a comment, to say, why is this, and what is the problem with Black folks being independent? What's wrong with us being independent? I'm independent of, I still pay taxes and all that, but I'm independent in where I spend my dollars.
Who are you asking that question to, though, Ku? Who is that question to? Is that to Black folk, or is that to white folk?
You're hitting it. It is.
So if the question is to white folks, then I think the answer is obvious.
Where's that feedback coming from? Something's going on there. Somebody's got either something. I'm hearing. Okay.
I think what the answer is obvious, and it's called racism. Okay, and I don't know what else to call it. I mean, that's what it is. I want to posit this, though. You know about Black Bottom and what was done to the Black community with Black Bottom. You know what happened in Tulsa. You've seen the movie Rosewood, which was the same thing. There are cities that litter the landscape of the U.S. that this happened to. But you'll hear some Black people say, we got to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. We got to do our own thing. We have to unify. We have to do this. And I think we miss what we already know. Our communities were destroyed, not by us.
That's right.
They were destroyed because of racism. This is why I talk about, and we've had this discussion before, I can no longer blame Black people for racism. I'm not going to do that anymore.
So I have a question.
Because it's not, things happen to our community that is not within our control. If we had control, these things, our communities would work. These things happen to our community through political things, through policies that are made. Policies are made through the politicians who are put in office. These politicians are people other people vote for. This stuff comes down to who are you voting for? What are you voting for? I think it comes down to that.
Okay,
and white folk
vote
for people who are okay with suppressing and oppressing Black.
Okay. And when Drew responds, because I want to respond to Nurse Florence too. She said something on there about thriving and staying in your place. Go ahead, Drew.
So pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, staying in this, not blaming Black folks for what they're dealing with. I have a slight problem with that, because as a man of faith, is Satan going to be, is the enemy going to be accused? Is he going to have to take the rap for all the things that I do that is wrong, that is sinful? No.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
Hear me out. I'm going to take you there, because I agree that racism is a part that has destroyed our community. It has done some horrible things to the Black people. I get that. The system is set up for us not to succeed. But it comes a point where we have to we have to recognize what it is and still try to be successful this in spite of.
But we do that.
People, hold on. Bruce, Rodney, we move in this city. We know that there are Black people who you'll have a neighborhood where Black people care about their house and they take it up, they cut the grass, they do all things, and then you got people who don't give a rat's behind. Now, these both people are being oppressed by the same system, but one puts forth effort and the other one doesn't. There has to be accountability on us at some point in time, on it, whether it be at a minuscule level or a large level, but there has to be some accountability held on us as far as what do we do in spite of? How do we move in spite of?
Hold on, Bruce. I'm going to further argue with you. I'm going to argue against what you're saying, Drew. Here this
you
is.
And Bruce both.
Okay. Let's talk about that person, the homes that I don't cut my grass and all. Okay. We're talking about the system now. So are you then telling me, Bruce, that you're right, Ryan, it is layers. Are you then telling me that if I were given the same opportunity as my person across town, West Bloomfield, Birmingham, Novi, that I would keep my grass up? Would I cut my grass if I were given the same opportunity? Because what you're saying is we need to be accountable. Keep your grass up. Wait a minute, no. But my neighborhood, my tax base is down. You've taken the community centers out of our neighborhoods. There's not a grocery store. So are you telling me that if you put a grocery store and you put a library back in my community, that I would do the right thing? You talking about me being accountable?
Are you asking me that question?
He's asking you that question.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if we're afforded the same opportunities, yes, there may be because you got to talk about there's still individuals. We're still a group of individuals. We may move different. We may operate different. We may.
Well, then you've answered your own question.
I'm not finished.
Then you've answered your own question. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, right down the street from me, Sandru, I live in Novi, which is supposed to be, we moved out here because the school systems was great. tax base. We pay less taxes than Detroit, all that kind of stuff. Down the street from me, there are two white people who live in houses. They're next door to each other. They don't cut their grass like I cut my grass. They don't. If you open their garage, it's like they're hoarders. It's like they don't take care of anything. Okay. So my point is, when we talk about systemic issues, policies, like Coop was talking about, if we had the same opportunities that everyone else had, you said yes, we would take care of our grass. We would do that because we have resources. We have money to do that. You know, to get fertilizer or to fix your lawnmower costs. And if you don't have the resources to do that, then yeah, your grass might stay not as cut as long, or you might have issues doing that. You might have issues with upkeep of your house. Yes, that happens. And then, so we talk about policies. The policies, if we change the policies and everybody had equal access, of course you're going to have some black people who are going to cut their grass. But you got white people who don't cut their own grass now, and they have. But what we don't do is say these white folk is trifling. We don't say that. We don't talk about them like that. We don't talk about the white community that way. We only talk about ourselves that way. And I'm saying,
don't say we, because say you, because I talk about.
Said, Sandra,
I gave an example
of black people. I gave an example of blacks held accountable, but we're not holding these white. I'm telling you right now, white folk down the street from me are not being held accountable for cutting their grass. They're not.
So,
and they live in Novi.
Okay, are you in a subdivision or a HOA? Yeah. Can you guys complain? Have you complained?
I'm not going to complain. I don't care that much.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Hear me out, because I have this conversation. I sound like, to me it makes sense. Like black people, like all people, black, brown, white. If you are not trying and then blaming the system, you're part of the problem.
Who does that? Who does it?
Bruce, there's a lot of people who do it.
Tell me, who complains?
Every person who didn't vote for Trump, who didn't vote when Trump got elected. Every person who did not vote when Trump got elected and complained the 4 years he was in office, those people.
Okay, and then those people, because more people voted against Trump this last time. So are they okay now? And you're right, and he lost.
Now
a lot of us, Sandra, a lot of us didn't vote, or we voted third party. To be honest, that's why Trump won, because a lot of liberals knew that Hillary was going to win, and it didn't matter if they voted or not. There was other things that were happening. A lot of people who normally voted third party in order to make a statement against the Democratic Party. We need y'all to do more. And they did that. And Trump won the Electoral College. He won Michigan by 11,000 votes. But Jill Stein got like 1 million votes in Michigan.
Okay, so Hillary lost to Bernie in Michigan, and she didn't run a campaign to win Michigan. She lost Michigan because Wayne County didn't vote.
That's the primary.
Wayne County didn't vote.
You're confusing two things. You're talking about the primary. I didn't vote for Hillary in the primary. I voted for Bernie.
Me too.
I did.
Me too.
But when the election came around, I voted for Hillary. Some of us didn't vote for Hillary. We voted for Jill Stein, or we voted for some other third-party candidate. And that's how Hillary lost Michigan.
Wayne County didn't come out. Look at the votes of Wayne County during that election.
Maybe they did it because they thought she was going to win. I already explained that. I don't understand your point. He won Michigan by 11,000 votes. 11,000. That's not a lot of votes. And
right.
Jill Stein got a heck of she got more than 11,000 votes in Michigan. Jill Stein was the third party candidate.
I think what Jason
if she's not on, then Hillary gets those votes, and then she wins Michigan. And the same things happened in Wisconsin, and in Pennsylvania. Those same things happen. People wisened up the next time, and the third party candidate didn't get those votes in this last election.
You're keeping it political, Bruce. That's good, but I think the strength of this argument between the three of us is, if you could put up, Jason, Ryan said something about poverty and cutting the grass. I want to touch base. Okay, yeah. If you're living in poverty or working to make ends meet or trying to supplement the poor education our children are getting, they may not care about their grass. But here's a question to that, because this is important about systemic. If I've got a customer in, they're calling it North Oak Park now. There's a person riding down the street in a mobile truck spraying the grass with fertilizer and good pesticides to keep the grass growing.
You mean so for everybody's lawn?
For everybody in this poverty, I'm speaking to Ryan now. If I didn't have to worry about my grass, would I have if that's not what I'm worried about, because you're saying that I'm not worried about my grass, but if I had that taken care of, if I could go to a place, the library, this poverty-stricken area that I'm in, this is what I'm talking about, the system of it. It's poverty over here. Why? Because there's no jobs. I can't get a decent job. That's why it's poverty. But if you took care of some of those things, if you took care of those things.
Cool. Can I ask a question? Coop and Bruce? I just want to ask this question, because y'all may not have these friends. Y'all may not have these type of associates. But I saw when stimulus checks was coming out, hear me out, Bruce. Come on now. Let's when stimulus checks was coming out, I'm watching people, crab boils, top shelf, buying it by the pound. I'm seeing this. I'm watching this. Got people who I know have never even applied for a job, but when they get the stimulus checks, they getting broke off. They blowing.
They got broke off with $1,200.
No, hear me out. They're also doing the PPP loan scam. Right. They're also getting 20 grand for companies and organizations they never worked in, and now they're scrambling because Uncle Sam is sending them letters talking about, you owe this 20, or we coming to holler at you on them. There are people, and there are black, white, browns who all did this. But I'm talking
we're talking about black people now.
I'm talking about the black people I saw doing this.
Okay, I don't want you to confuse it. Well, it was all people, because that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's all people, and it's not because we have black skin that we're going to scam.
Oh no, happening. I'm not saying
because it's not just us. It's not just us.
That. But what I am saying is you have to hold us accountable when we do this foolishness.
When you say us, do you mean black people?
Who else were we talking about?
Okay, why are you only talking about black people when it's white?
Because you just told me not to talk about white or brown.
But that's what I'm saying. You're making an argument specific to black people when it's not just black people.
Because I'm black. But
that's what I'm saying. You are demonizing black people for things that people do, not just black people. You're demonizing black people, and you're saying you're making the argument because we're black, we do these things.
No. I'm saying I saw black.
Then your argument would be all people do these things, and they all need to be held accountable.
But Bruce, you said this all stemmed from you coming from the point that I'm going to stop blaming the whole pull up your bootstraps black people.
I'm not going to say what you said, which was black people need to be held accountable. I'm going to say
I say we need.
all,
I said we.
all,
I said we.
and I asked you, when you say we, do you mean black people? And you said yes.
So we can say whiteness and cover the gamut of white people, but I say black, and now I'm wrong. But
I'm
you say
saying
whiteness is like a paintbrush.
Whiteness is a power structure. Whiteness is a system. Is blackness a system?
It's not.
The answer is no. So when I say whiteness, I'm talking about a system. I'm talking about policies. I'm talking about power. When I say black, am I talking about that?
No.
The answer is no. So then you can't make the argument, well, we can talk about whiteness, but we can't talk about blackness. They're not the same. The things are not the same. We have to have an argument based on commonalities. When I say whiteness, I mean something. I'm saying something.
Okay. So,
when I say blackness, you're talking about black people.
okay.
I'm not talking about, because not all white people believe that black should be oppressed. Not all of them think
like
that.
3 against 1 on this podcast at times.
Huh?
Fake farms in absurd places. I'm telling what Jason put up.
And so are those black people?
My thing, okay. So
I didn't think we were in the. I mean, we used to be in the. I mean, we probably still are in the farming business, but
yeah, it's
I mean,
still black farm.
You know, the other thing is we didn't talk. The Lakers got PPP loan.
Yeah, so did the Pistons.
But we ain't talk. Well, we're not mad about them people. We talking about people.
Who says we're not?
You didn't bring them up. You talking about people who got. You talked about people who got $1,200 in stimulus and had a crab boil. That's what you talked about.
Hey, Bruce,
you didn't talk about the Lakers.
We can narrow the scope. We can narrow the scope of this argument as much as you want. What I'm coming from is a point that
if you're gonna have
the point that I'm coming from is if we're gonna talk about the whole pulling up the bootstraps, and we as a people have to, because I asked this question in the group chat. We're fighting so hard. Why are we fighting so hard? And I asked this question rhetorically to see what, and I wanted to talk about this. We fight so hard to be a part of something that doesn't want us. But we also have to do like the people in Tulsa did. What they did was they were the community amongst themselves. They decided, they pulled their bootstraps together. They pulled their money. They decided we're going to have our own, and they made it their own. Just like we did as black people in Black Bottom, just like we did as black people in Harlem, just like we did on the south side of Chicago. We have done this as a people, but we have to get back to the roots of us.
No,
me, you.
Hold on.
Wait. Let me finish. Us, me, you, and Rodney. Rodney, you're landscaping. If you're a landscaper and I need some landscaping done, I need to be able to say, to keep the money inside of the circle, I'm not going to hire a white man to cut my lawn. I'm not going to hire brown people. I'm going to hire Rodney to do it. So the money stays in the black community longer.
Cool.
I understand the systemic racism. I agree with you 100%, but we have to get to the point where we are creating our own wealth inside of and we can do it.
I
agree. Have the money.
We don't disagree with that. But cool. As a landscaper, that's your business. What percentage would you say? What percent of your clients are black?
$95.
I'm a photographer. That's what I do.
95%.
95% of your clients are black. 95. I'm a photographer. I've been a full-time photographer since 2012. And I would say 98% of my clients are black. 98% of my clients are black.
That's what I'm talking
about. My point to you, Sandru, is we do that. We do that already. The stuff that you're saying we should do, we already do.
But not on a grand scale.
Hold on. In Tulsa, they did the same thing. And their wealth was taken.
Yes.
And in black bottoms, and do you think that would happen today?
So I'm
Do you think
saying
it would happen today, though, Bruce?
you have two examples right now of people who own businesses, and over 90% of our clients are black. You were complaining though that we as black people have to, you got to hire Coop, you got to hire Bruce, and I'm saying that's already been done. That's being done. That's
But on a large
happening.
scale, Bruce, is it being done? On a large scale.
What's a large scale? When Beyonce stuff come out, are black people buying it? The answer is yes.
But it's her. Is Beyonce stuff benefiting strictly Beyonce, or is she?
That's another issue.
Okay.
Good
I'm
stuff,
talking
Jason.
I'm talking about this issue about black people who are in business with other black people. I'm saying that's happening. I hire makeup artists all the time, and I may have hired one white and one Arab lady to do the makeup. So 90% of the people who I hire are black.
Mm-hmm.
Hairstylists, the same thing. The people but there is no black camera maker. So I can't buy
You can't buy that. Okay, I get that.
No, I have to buy a Canon or a Nikon or Fuji or Sony.
So
that's what I have to buy.
With the Arabic and the Jewish community, they only shop. They only like their business is interlocked, and that dollar circulates 7 to 12 times before it leaves that community. Ours circulates through the community
because they buy.
I'm saying that 7 to 12 is fine, but I'm currently working with 4 Jewish customers right now that they have a totally different mindset about dealing with us as far as giving their monies to us, because from what I understand, I'm talking to my best friend about this week about how is it that he's giving these large amounts, and it was because that they feel a little guilt. Their community feels a little guilt, and they subscribe to, which is what they wanted. Jews wanted to kind of get away, escape the whole German thing, and they look at you of doing the same thing, which is why they're able to work with you. They like you have this entrepreneurial spirit, and you trying to be on the grind. Our people was on the grind, and there's a little bit of that I need to patronize that as well.
So what you're saying?
They keep it there, but they also
So what they're doing is they're making a decision based on the money that they have that they're going to reward black entrepreneurship. They're going to do that. I will say the same thing. I've only been I'm talking about corporate America now. When I was a pharmaceutical rep, I've only been hired by white women who made it a point to go and find black talent. That's what they did. That's the only reason why I was there. So I'm not. It happens. So I've only been hired by white women, and I've only been fired by white men. Corporate America. I'm just saying. There are people who are trying. Maybe more people need to do it. I agree with that. But people are doing that.
And hear me out.
I will tell you this. I've had like Comcast has to come out to my house because my internet's not working. I've said, send a black technician. I've said that. Send a black technician out here. I also think that because I'll have a roofer come. You know, they'll be doing some work in the area, and then the roofers will send people out to canvass the neighborhood to see who else might need roofing. Why are the people who come to my house black?
Because
I'm saying,
yeah, I get it.
When AT&T comes, it's a black person who pulls up in the truck. what I'm saying is people are doing these things. And I think as a Black community, we need to stop saying that Black people need to do this stuff because Black people are doing this.
Bruce, would you agree that as a community, because here's one thing I've been saying for years, in our community, we've replaced the neighborhood with just the hood because we've taken the neighbor out of it. It's just this, like Brittany said, they've taken the community from us and we've perpetuated the community not being with us. So we don't reach out and cut the neighbor's grass. When we don't reach out, a lot of us, not saying we all don't, because I experienced the love of family neighbors doing that to me.
Yeah, I've done the same thing.
Right. But on a whole, and on a larger scale, do you think we could do better as a community?
Yeah. So yes, I feel like we could do better.
Okay.
But let me explain what I think is happening. When my grandmother grew up, she went to City Temple because she could walk there. You know, she could walk from Larchmont down to Clarendon. It was a bit of a walk, but she could do that. Back then, we didn't travel like we do now. Right. We were, and I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm talking about everyone. Yeah. Is now nowadays things are more commuter. So I go to City Temple, but for me, it's a 40-minute drive. For me. So I may not go every week because it's 40 minutes and I could watch it on YouTube. You see what I'm saying? So in a lot of respects, a lot of things have become less communal because we don't just live down the street from our church anymore. That's not how we live life. So yes, of course, we could do more things as a community. But I think how we live now makes it so that that's just not how things work anymore. Everyone just doesn't live next to each other anymore. The reason why we have to do this podcast like we do it is because I live in Novi, Coop lives in Southfield or Farmington, and you live in Detroit. So
Inkster.
Or in Inkster. So the technology allows for this community, but before people were doing podcasts, you had to, we all went to the same place. That's not how things work necessarily anymore. That's not only a Black thing though. That's everybody. Everybody's doing that.
What I want us to understand is this, and on this whole subject, as we switch gears to our couple final ones, I want to kind of see what Drew is saying here, is that the pulling up ourselves by our bootstraps and the accountability, we got to take that. Here's what I'm thinking and what I don't want us to lose sight of. Yeah, I can do that, but I still want you to know that it's systemic. The reason why I'm in this way.
Yes.
And I'm going to buy Black and I'm going to support Black, but you need to know that as I'm doing this, I know that it's because of the system, the reason I'm having to do just Black. That's all I'm saying. We can argue 100%. Back and forth, but I want us to know that, I should be, and we do some of that. However, the system has screwed us since 1619, and it continues to. That's all it is. And I'm not giving nobody no pass. There is no pass.
Exactly.
Just to button that up, Coop. I guess my point in this stuff is, to me, like Ryan said, there's levels to it. So if I know that Black people are doing business with other Black people, and then I've seen documentaries where Tulsa happened, Rosewood happened, Black Bottom happened, which one is the higher level? Is the racism the higher level, or is the Black people need to take accountability the higher level? I come out on. So I agree that both things are a thing.
Right.
I just think that the political, the policy, the whiteness is a higher level
The system.
than the personal responsibility. Because I think we do show Black people do show personal responsibility. So in my arguments, I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. I'm not saying that Black people shouldn't be accountable. I'm not saying none of that. Okay. I'm just saying that that's a lower level than the political and the suppression and the oppression is.
Okay.
Because you can do all that stuff like we've done in Tulsa, and then whiteness takes it.
Okay.
So which is more important? So is the whiteness more important, or is me taking responsibility? I say it's the whiteness.
On that level, I want to say this. Whiteness is actually the one ring below the highest level, which is the sinful world that we live in. Because we as people of God, we have to understand that this system was set up. The system of whiteness, of governmental control, of that whole system was set up as another form of oppression by the enemy to keep us infighting or keep us blinded from the real thing that's going on, which is sin is destroying us and put us against each other. So you have the sinfulness is the highest thing. Then the thing that sin put in place, which is the systematic racism and oppression.
I could see that. I agree with that.
Then the levels, once you start cutting down the levels on that thing, then it ends up in our lap. But if we go back up that same level, take personal responsibility, get a relationship with God, recognize what we see is wrong, call it out for what it is. And I'm talking about all people. Now we're talking about all people, because if once white Christians start recognizing that racism is a sin, an abomination against God, then they open their eyes to all the things that are being done wrong in what they believe in politically. Then that system is destroyed. Then liberty. Then where the Spirit of God is, the captives are set free, the wounded are made whole.
Let me throw this at you then. What we don't talk about, and so I grew up Adventist, so I believe what you're saying. I believe that it's a level thing. There's a God level, there's a policy, systemic level, and then personal. I understand that. What I feel is the flaw in your argument is you said that if white Christians start to understand that that racism is an abomination, then they will come to this thing that, okay, then we have to destroy racism because it's an abomination to us. And what I'm saying is white folk benefit from racism. So for them to come to the conclusion on a grand scale that we need to get rid of racism, what they're going to have to do is say, we've benefited from this and we can't benefit from that anymore. And I'm saying that's not going to happen. I don't care how much you believe in God, because they will not give up their power. This stuff is about power.
And that's why the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers in high places. And You're right. Because here's the thing, everything, and I'm gonna end it with this. Everything is level at the cross. At the foot of the cross, all the ground is level. And anybody that feels that they have an advantage or a leg up, they're not meeting where we should be meeting, which is on level ground at the cross. So you're right. And some people are not going to give up that power. But I believe that there's some people who are going to recognize that, I'm taking advantage of a system that is demonic in nature, and I need to remove myself from this system.
Let me throw this to you too. I thought about this. We talk about race, and I do a lot. You know what I don't talk about as much? I don't talk about paternalism as much. Paternalism is the idea that men know best, and what we say should go.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, paternalism don't work in my house.
What I'm saying is that's an issue too. Women have an issue with that. We don't talk about that. You know what else we don't talk about?
What?
Because I think paternalism is an issue of equal rights, men versus women. But there's also equal rights for people who don't consider themselves man or woman, or who don't abide by those standards. There are gay people, there are queer people, and I don't know all of the stuff or the alphabet or how I should refer to everyone, but we don't talk about that kind of stuff. And I feel like if we believe that a system of race disadvantages some, then at times we as men need to understand that we have privileges that women don't, or we as heterosexuals have privileges that homosexuals don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to wrestle with all of that. We can't just wrestle with black and white. That's not the only thing that's a system that's oppressing other people. I'll leave it there. We can get to that later.
Mm-hmm. What was that Nick Nice said, Jason? Something about greater than capitalism and power. Capitalism and power is greater than religion to many.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We didn't talk about that at all. Capitalism is like the engine that fuels a lot of this stuff.
That's right. And that's higher to them than any Anglo-Saxon, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah.
None of that stuff matters. It's about my bread. It's about me gaining.
Which ultimately, the Tulsa thing was economic. We're going to tear that. We're going to burn it down because of my bread. That's what that was. It ain't about yours. Because I burned that down. It was about it was about theirs. I appreciate that comment from the capitalism and religion greater than religion to many. Let's jump. And our second comment, our second conversation or discussion tonight was a couple of things. And maybe we'll be going into all of them. One of the things was LeBron James's agent, Paul. What's his first name?
Rich Paul.
Rich Paul
talked about how white players don't have black representation as agents. Now, I would be, don't want a black agent. Now, BJ Armstrong, former champion, Birmingham Brother Rice High School here in Detroit, has a agency company, which he represents about 15 or 20 athletes. It's a problem to me because Rich Paul, who by the way is not an educated man, did you all know that?
Well,
he's not a scholastic educated man.
Okay,
he doesn't have a degree.
Right.
He doesn't. Okay,
he's educated though.
Got it. And you're right. I'll take that. And I guess the question is, why is that? He talked of that. He said he has international players as represent. He's representing them, but they don't have the idea of Americanism in them.
They don't
so he doesn't have any white. He has no white American players under his portfolio.
I'm going to say this because clearly they're stupid as hell. Because these black agents are getting their black clients the big money. So they must want to go broke 5 years after they leave the NBA, because you got guys who are mid-level to low-level guys who are getting long-term bread. So I'm just being honest. If you sitting up there and you looking at all Rich Paul clients and they're making bank, and you look at all of these other black agents and their clients are making bank, and you're still signing with Rosenberg, who hasn't gotten a big deal.
Jason, I don't know if you can. Jason, can you find? Is that possible to find? How many black agents are there in the NBA? That's just a black agents. I don't think there might not be. 10, maybe 10,
But,
maybe.
but but see, the 10 that are, they have the biggest clients. They have
Rich Paul
everybody,
has LeBron James.
everybody,
Okay.
and everybody. He also
He
has
has
AD.
AD. He has
AD.
Contavious Caldwell Pope. He has he has a myriad
John Wall.
of.
He's got John Wall. I think John
He
Wall.
got John Wall. So
He also
I
has football
understand.
players now.
Yeah, I agree. All I'm saying is the
Yes.
idea, though, the idea that because this black guy has all these black players would then say to white players that we should have a black agent, I think misses racism. Racism is not it's not an intellectual concept.
Oh, I know. That's
it's not a smart thing. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It is
ignorant in nature.
It's very ignorant in nature. So the idea that Rich Paul doesn't have white American players shows how racism works.
Mm-hmm.
It shows and how important racism is. If you can't get with his credibility, you can't get white players. That shows you how
the system.
Right. And here's the thing, Coop and Rodney. You know this deal that the deal. I mean, Coop and Bruce. You know this deal that these big name players are now signing. They're not signing long-term deals for big money. They're signing 2 and 3 year deals with the option to opt out, to sign a super.
Yeah.
You know who's the brainchild of that?
Yes,
Rich
yes, I do.
Paul.
That's what I'm saying. So not only has he without a degree, he has figured out the system to best advantage his clients. So to me, that shows a level of brilliance, right? That shows how brilliant he is, that he understood the system.
That's right.
Without a college degree to understand how best to position himself and his clients to make to maximize the amount of money. And you still can't get white clients?
Nope.
What?
Nope. Huh? And here's the thing with that. Here's what the system is saying to that. That yeah, you getting about maybe 10 or 20 small contracts and everything, but that pales in comparison to everybody else. So you go ahead with that, Rich Paul. You go ahead and do that. Yeah. And you go ahead and do that because you're not even denting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, you remember when we were coming up, David Falk had Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Lonzo Mourning. Yes. Patrick Ewing. That was his client base, white lawyer, attorney who was an agent and got them big deals, Juwan Howard and all of them. What this is with Chris Paul, and they love David Falk. Yeah. The NBA love David Falk. They don't love Rich Paul. They don't love Rich Paul. Rich Paul is doing what David Falk was doing. Harold Miner, all that. I'm just thinking of people he had in his portfolio.
Yes.
They don't want that.
No.
Come here.
Why?
They don't want the black man brokering, because that's what he's doing, brokering collectively multi-billion-dollar deals.
Why?
Because then you have players like Dwayne Wade and buying into teams.
But why don't they want that?
Because then we knock out the good old boy network.
And by knocking out the good old boy network, what are you doing? Like
assuming power.
Power is the thing that they don't want you to have. So when they downplay a Rich Paul, what they're doing is similar to what they did in Tulsa.
You hear about the Rich Paul rule in agency, an agent? Like you got to have a
The
degree?
reason why there is what they
Yeah.
tried to have a Rich Paul rule was because they're trying to take
The
the
power.
power he had.
That's right.
But here's the
Or
thing.
had.
Because really what this nigga is about to have all of them.
Yes.
He possibly could have 50.
Him.
And
You
wait,
okay,
wait.
buddy?
So
We
we
can't
got,
go into
I
detail.
think it's in the NBA. Are we 80% in the NBA?
78%.
We're
78%.
78%. 78%. See, that's crazy for Chris Paul. I mean, Rich Paul could actually, if I got 30% of that, that's a lot. That would be a lot of power. And I
That
don't
would be so
believe
much
that's
power.
why you create that. That's why you
But
create that.
What he has now is 30% of the highest paid clients in the NBA. That's what he has. So he has the power.
Well, yes, he has a lot of power. He has a lot of power.
Chris Paul is looking for. I don't know if Nurse Florence is he looking for validation from those white owners or bosses? Because I got the biggest name in the game in LeBron James. And
What he's doing,
when he's gone,
what he's doing is he's calling out the system.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, listen, this how flawed this thing is. I am the highest grossing agent in the league, and not one white player in this league wants to be on the roster. You would rather be on Bob Huggins-Smith's roster, who's getting you a Spalding shoe deal, not even a Chick-fil-A, a Coney Island commercial, and a 5-year deal for $400,000, then signing with the squad.
Then running with Rich Paul. That's right.
That has Nike in his back pocket. That has he's walking and talking with the CEO of Nike.
Yes.
But it's not only that, Drew. Not only are you seeing that there, it just happened. I don't know if you saw First Take. It just happened where you got the agents, and then you got Brad Stevens who stepped down. Well, Danny Ainge stepped down as the GM of the Boston Celtics yesterday.
You know why?
Brad Stevens is the new GM for the Boston Celtics. You talk about whiteness and privilege. This is what it does. You're talking about how does that happen? And Stephen A was talking about why aren't black players stepping up and saying, wait a minute, how does that happen? Yes. How does that happen? How do you step down as the Boston Celtics GM? And I'm just gonna put the coach in the white coach in that position.
Let's be clear. The white coach who before this job never had a pro job, never had a pro coaching job. He was a college coach. So he came as a college coach basically to the pros without any experience.
That's right.
And now he becomes a GM in the NBA.
Within 10 years.
Less than 10 years, but without any experience.
As a GM.
You got black guys
who
are working the system to try and get into these positions, and they can't get an interview.
So here's we were talking about this, and I said I was sarcastic in text, but it didn't come across. It's Boston. I don't expect them to do that.
You might not.
It's not right. It's not right. It's not right at all. But I don't expect it.
But if it's not right, then it should be called out.
And they're calling it out. Call it out.
I think when I hear, I expect it. To me, that means, well, we know that's going to happen. So why waste our breath? And what I'm saying is, you should waste your breath. You should do what Rich Paul. That's what I'm saying. You should do what Rich Paul did. He calls out this happening in the NBA with his credibility.
That's what happened with the Brian Leftwich. There were 5 coaching, at least 5 or 6 coaching opportunities openness. He had 4 interviews and didn't get a job. But this man has led the most prolific offense in the NFL for the last 3 years. One thing I will say,
Eric Bieniemy.
Eric Bieniemy, but Leftwich too. Leftwich is Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah.
The whole
Bay,
staff. Remember the whole staff.
Byron has the whole black staff.
Yeah,
the
whole black staff. So does now. Here's the thing: everybody outside of the head coach in Kansas City is black. And Andy Reid's like, to heck with what you're talking about. I'm going to get coaches that I know is going to win. I got to get what I know can win. But how does the Lions look for a coach? The only coach that has won for the Lions out of the last 10 coaches was the black coach, and they fired him to get another white coach who had a worse record than he did in his first season. He had a worse record in 3 years than the black coach had in his first year.
That's a very true statement that Cynthia said. White guys don't. You think JJ Redick cares that Rich Paul has LeBron James? You think he cares about that?
But I think what she's saying is it's not as simple as just not caring. It's not it's not just not caring. They benefit from this. They benefit from how the system is made. So it's not just that they don't care. Yeah, they probably don't care, but they benefit from this.
You think JJ Redick will get a better deal? I think JJ Redick will get a lot better deal with Rich Paul than he would with.
Well, I do too. But
whoever he's working with.
He gets other things. It's not just the money. He gets they get other things. It's not that they just don't care. They benefit not just necessarily monetarily.
Right.
They benefit in other ways that I don't think we always take into account. And so I understand her comment, but it's not just that they don't care. It's more than that. If they cared about the money, yes, they would sign with Rich Paul. But it's more than that. They get other things.
That's right. Which it goes into, okay, you're gonna trade me. Well, can you at least trade me? My dad is sick and he's in Washington, and I'd rather be there with him because he goes to the. Oh yeah, we'll get that taken care of for you. You think they do that with the brethren? I don't know if they do that with the brother. I mean, people ask for those type of perks. Like, if you're gonna trade me, fine. Where usually you just get traded. But can you at least trade me?
That's why they have this thing. But see, it's once again we go back to the power. That's why a lot of you have you noticed the trend that's going on in the NBA now, where players are saying, and this is black players, I'm out. 3 years left on the deal. Trade me.
Yeah,
they're instituting their power.
They're exercising
their power. And listen, Harden told Houston after they gave him everything he's ever wanted, not only are you going to trade me, you're going to trade me to Brooklyn, or I'm not going anywhere else. Because he had the power with his no trade clause.
That's right.
Yes,
he
could opt, that's what the system. I'm talking about NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball.
Not necessarily NFL, not as much in the NFL.
As far as what?
Because I think the NFL, the lifespan of an NFL player is not as long. Also, the contracts are set up so that you can still be cut in the NFL.
Yeah,
you can't exercise your power like you can in the NBA because of how the system is set up.
Well, you got Watson, and I'm gonna when I say this, everybody, we had some conflict last time, but Watson, who was the pillar of Houston, he was never had an issue. He was the poster child for the Houston Texans until he decided he wanted to get traded. Now it's this, all this comes out. Not saying that these women are lying, but I just think the timing of it is awfully peculiar. Awfully peculiar. But you have players like Julio Jones. I'm out, trade me, exercising their power. And I believe now you're right. It's all about the power. But the reason white players and this could be cultural because we're talking about race. It could be cultural.
Some of it could be, yes.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you. If it's between you, Bruce, and who's the guard for Saginaw? White guy, my guy. You know, the shooter, the assassin for Saginaw, straight shooter.
I know you're talking about
Murph.
Yeah, Murphy.
If both of you have agencies, I like it. I love Murph. I'm coming out the league. I'm coming into league. You are agent, Murph agent. Bruce, we're gonna have more dinners. We're gonna do more talking. Even though Murphy said I got Nike in the bag, I'm talking to you because culturally, we can relate to some things that me and Murphy never relate to.
Maybe.
So that could be a part of it. Now that
could be.
And you got to think a lot of these young guys, their parents are hiring their agents out of college. So
they have an idea of what is good. Yeah. What is good? What is wholesome? We talked about this last week, Coop. We didn't talk about for this, but yes, Rich Paul has all these black people, but he don't got all the black people because there are some black people who they want a Jewish agent. They want that because they have an idea of what that affords them. It's the same thing when we do things. Do you get a white realtor or do you get a black realtor?
Black.
Well, but maybe some people get a white realtor because they understand that the system may not be beneficial with a black realtor. I mean, we can do this all day with all kinds of things.
Right.
So yes, in that way, I think black people need to be held accountable, Sandru. We need to understand that the white is not always right. A white man's ice is not colder. You know what I'm saying? Black people can make ice too.
His grass might be greener because he can afford to do the fertilizer.
Right.
I'm joking.
I'm joking. You know what I'm saying? But you understand that. So we have to think about those things as well when we become on the verge of about to get in the league or whatever. We have to start thinking, and I think we do. This is why I think the whole Naomi Osaka thing.
I'm glad you.
Is so big. She's a number 2 tennis player in the world, and she's saying, "I'm not going to play."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, making the state. She said, "I'm not going to." She said, first, "I'm not going to talk to the media."
Right.
And they said, "Well, we'll fine you." And she said, "Okay, I'll take the fine."
Take the fines. Then they came back and said, "You don't do the press conferences. You can't play."
And then she said, "I ain't playing."
Right.
And so now who loses?
They do.
Yes.
The system.
Because she's the biggest draw in tennis right now.
Or
they
want
to see Osaka and Serena.
So I think what those tennis what the tennis federations did, they overplayed their whiteness. They felt like they could basically bully her.
Mm-hmm.
And she, again, understanding her power in this system, said, no, I just won't play.
And you know what? I feel the same. This obligation to the media, I'm kind of sick of that. I'm kind of sick of players having to be obligated to press conferences because I believe that Kyrie Irving really has some mental health challenges. And he may not want to talk about what he wants to talk about. They may not want to hear what he want to talk about, and he don't want to hear what they're talking about. So if that's the case, if we're mutually on the plane where I don't want to hear what you're talking about and you don't want to hear what I'm talking about, why force me to do an interview? Because you're not going to get the answers out of me that you want. And I'm not going to talk about what you want. So what are we doing this for? This woman came out and said, this young lady, 23-year-old lady now, young lady, She says she first started feeling the pressure in 2018 after she beat Serena, because this was her childhood idol. And it hurt her to beat her, even though she's always imagined beating her. So the mental health part of that is, people like that's not a serious issue, but any type of mental health issue is serious when you don't know how to handle it.
I think what she also said was when the media asks her questions, that she perceives that their questions are doubting her abilities, and so that plays on her mental too. And I get that. That's why I think her claim about mental illness and how people sometimes ask these questions that basically are set up so you can doubt yourself and your own abilities. I think that's legit. That's not a I believe something and you don't believe it. This is, as a tennis player or as any athlete, most of the game is mental.
90%.
So if people are playing in your mental,
it affects your play. That's why she hasn't.
So that's why she said, I'm out. Yeah.
She has never been successful at the French Open.
Yes.
So she's all 3 other tournaments, she's killed at. But this one, because first of all, you got to understand the French press. They don't like us in any way, shape, or form. They used to try to bully Venus and Serena. But but because their father was very intricate on groomed them on how to handle the press and never to break their confidence, that they handled the press in France in a different way. But they both talked about how the press bothered them. John McEnroe, a white tennis player, he hated the post-match tennis conference because they would ask questions that had nothing to do with necessarily the match.
Yes.
You just exerted all this mental and physical energy on the match. And then you got to get off, compose yourself, and answer a bunch of dumb questions.
That some make you,
and
some of those questions, especially if you haven't had success there, make you start to doubt yourself. The other thing is
design. I think some of the questions are designed to do that.
Some of them maybe.
That's right.
I also want to make it clear too that the French Open is played on clay.
Yeah.
It's a totally different
surface. Yes.
Game. It's a totally different surface. People are sliding. Yeah. American players are basically brought up on hard courts, fast courts. So there's no sliding. It's about quickness and the French and the Spanish too. Some of them grow up on clay courts, so they understand that type of game. And whereas Americans may not, and so we're at a disadvantage there. So, and we have to maybe learn, that game
on the fly.
So, I think we have to understand that part too. It's not just tennis. It's a whole different type of tennis that you have to play on that surface.
You okay? Come on. So we just had 2 loud explosions in the Inkster Dearborn area. Shut the door. And they've kind of terrified my son, so he's going to be in my lap. Shut the door. He's going to be in my lap.
What
I don't know, bro. Like no, they weren't fireworks. They were loud, like explosions.
Like a generator type.
Could have been. They were also. You could feel the vibrations at the house, and he's never felt that, so he's a little. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
believe like this whole right to the press. So. In the era of social media, athletes don't need.
No, they don't.
They don't need, and for a company to feel. See, I believe this. Freedom of the press. I agree that press should have freedoms, but not mandated on me. Like your freedom to ask me questions shouldn't be mandated on me. I shouldn't be forced to be sitting down in front of a mic when I don't want to. I don't feel like it today. I just had a bad game.
They argued, Drew, that you signed the contract to be in the French Open, and we
Right.
asked questions.
Okay.
And in some of these leagues, I know, like in the NBA, that's part of your contract that you have to do these things.
And if I don't live up to that, you have a system in place to fine me.
To fine me, yes, that's true.
How many games do I have to write the check for? Tell me that up front, and I'll just write my check now.
So that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying with Nail Me. That we shouldn't have ever began to threaten you. Saying, "Well, don't even be in the tournament. We'll fine you, and when you can fine. But if you're not, we're gonna fine you, and you got to be okay with that."
They said, "If you don't do it, we're gonna fine you." She said, "Okay."
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like that part. It was that part. What you mean? Okay.
She said, "Okay."
Okay.
I agree with what you said, Sandra. I think because Jamel Hill said something similar. She says, there was a time when there was no social media, right? So the only time we as fans got to see these people or hear what they had to say was via the media. But nowadays, all of these people are their own corporations. They have their own social medias. They have their own followings. They talk to their own followers,
their own brand that they have to protect.
Right. So it's not the same. And so these companies, these federations, these associations, these leagues are going to have to adjust to the new, social media landscape. They're going to have to do that.
What if this was the case, Bruce? You tell me this. Cool. You tell the reporters you have 3 questions you can ask me. I'll go to my social media platform and I'll answer the question.
Yeah, that may happen.
And I'll answer the questions, but not you. I'll look at your question. So I got a question from Bob Schubert at the Detroit News. He wants to know blah, blah, blah. Well, here's what I say to that question. I had this great question fast across screen and he answered the question. But I think, Bruce, hardest game you ever played, championship you won or lost. Were you ready for a press conference after that?
I probably wasn't, but
cool. You lose the championship game as a coach. You trying to talk to the press, to that guy who says, "So, Coop, you were up 10 points in the fourth quarter. Your starting point guard starts to cramp. You take him out and you lose the game by 6. What happened there? You just answered the question.
Or how about you missed your last 8 shots? You must not be clutch."
So
I'm saying something becomes personal,
right?
And it's not about the game per se. And it's almost like you don't have an opponent out there too. You know what I'm saying? There's someone playing defense on you. They're professional as well. You know what I'm saying? That it's not just me out there by myself. It's not just, I missed a free throw. There's crowd. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot going on. They're not robots out there. They're human.
So and I just have, and this is going to the leagues, the press. We have to. The sense of entitlement has to go away. These people are their own individuals. They're their own corporations. You have to respect their brand just the way you want them to respect the shield, the logo, and the federation. Until you come on that common ground and you realize that you need them as much as they need you, you're going to have these issues. But here's the thing: she's going to win in the end. She's going to win. She's going to come out. She's going to come out on top. Naomi and Kyrie Irving, because I hate that, I'm not a big Kyrie fan, but he's demonstrated mental health issues. He's told you he has mental health issues, but everybody is clowning this man or talking about this man during his struggle. Like, if you've never had it, you don't know what it feel like, look like, sound like. So don't judge these people until you walk a mile, shoot a shot, hit a ball in their shoes, because they still have lives. They still have things going on. And it ain't about them answering your questions at the end of their games. Get a life or another job. Sorry. I'm just sick of it. These people,
That's it.
like, there are people hiding their mental health issues because they don't want to be ridiculed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Jamel Hill talked about Ricky Williams.
Yes.
Yeah.
She said
Yeah.
Ricky Williams had anxiety issues,
Mm-hmm.
like
Would come
social
on his press,
anxiety issues. Period.
come on his
So
press
he used to
conference
do
with his
press
helmet on.
conferences in a hel-
With his
with a
helmet on.
helmet on. And part of the reason how he could help his anxiety was he smoked weed.
Yeah.
But people said he smoked weed because he was a weed head. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he couldn't control.
Yeah.
But so that's the other thing. The media just simplifies things. They don't give you the whole context all the time. So
Ricky was
That same thing with Marshawn Lynch. He's really an introvert. What he does on the field is him performing. But if you see, if he steps off the field, I seen the episode with him doing bar rescue, and he was talking like it's his restaurant, but you got less than 100 words out of this man in an hour episode. He was really just kind of, because the cameras was on, he was talking, but that camera being there when he was prepared but not really prepared, it kind of put him in. You saw his real character, that he's really kind of a introverted person who has these moments where he performs, but really he's really a low laid back kind of low key person. And so when he was not doing interviews, it was not that he was bucking the system. I don't do interviews. I'm only here because they define me. I'm only here
so I
because
won't get fined.
so I won't get fined. I'm only here. That,
so
but when he had the one-on-one interviews with people, they said he was an excellent interview.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's wrap up, guys. If we can, I can start with just saying, give me our 30-second yes. Arizona, former Arizona manager and World Series winner manager Bob Brenly made a statement on camera regarding a Latino player about his do-rag. And he made a statement that I wonder what type of do-rag Tom Seaver would be wearing if he were out here now. That comment drew lots of criticism. It had, from what people thought, racial undertones. Then it further went on to say that Brimley has been criticizing a lot of Black players and people of color, Latino players, in his commentary. He stepped away from the mic for 1 week today. He stepped away for 1 week. I'm just going to go away for a week. The racial undertone that people are saying that Caucasian European people have, this is what they do. It is only in this particular case that he says, I'll just step away, that it'll just go away. But in the crevices of his mind and in the hardest of his hearts, he does not care for people of color. That's my opinion, and I'm just saying.
So that was very good, Coop. I'm going to go where I always go. First, I want to say this week, I feel like I have a thing where I'll be listening to music and just some things just hit me. So I want all of you to go and re-download Mary Mary's The Sound. There are 3 songs on the album. They're right after each other. It starts with Dirt, and then I forget the next 2 after. One is Seattle, and then there's another one after that. Listen to those 3 songs. Those have been on repeat all week. I feel like we need to, as a community, still pay attention to what's happening in politics. I think we all who voted, there are a lot of things that we want to happen. We wanted the pandemic to be over, so we needed the vaccine. We got people elected in Georgia so that we could, have half the Senate, basically so that we could get some policies done, whether that be voting rights or, money in the economy or raising taxes on the rich but none of these things are going to happen unless we abolish the filibuster. I talked about it earlier. The January 6th commission was not put in place because only 56 people in the 100-person Senate voted for it. So a majority of people voted for it, both Democrat and Republican, but it won't happen. It won't become law because of the filibuster. The filibuster makes it so that you have to have 60 votes, which means in our case, we have to have 10 Republicans to vote to vote for voting rights for everyone. They're not going to do that. We need 10 people to vote for stimulus packages or infrastructure bills or the Green New Deal. We need 10 Republicans who are going to do that. And we're never going to get 10, which means the filibuster has to be eliminated. That would mean that if you have a majority of votes, your policies will go through. So again, I just want everyone to pay more attention to what's happening, whether that's calling your senators, voting for more progressive candidates. We have to stop voting for these Republicans. I'm just saying.
Hello, can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, good job, Bruce Group. I'm glad. Man, it's tough to follow up. But last 2019, I went to Oshkosh, Wisconsin for a camp, a Pathfinder camp out, and I started this thing called pen trading. These are two of my most valuable pens. Okay, give me one moment, SJ. These are two of my most valuable pens. They're valuable to me, and they're only valuable because I place value on them. They may not be worth anything to anybody who's watching this podcast, but to me, they hold value. And it made me start to think that I either purchased those, or I traded for them. That means I traded I thought they were so valuable that I paid for them, or I traded something else away that had value to someone else so that I can obtain those. And that got me to thinking about 1 Corinthians 6, that ye are bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which is God's. We were bought with a price because God found value in us, not because our wives, our children, our mothers, our fathers, our community, our country, or anybody else. But God saw value in us, so much so that he paid the ultimate price. He offered up the ultimate sacrifice, which was his son, and his son paid the ultimate price. So when people are talking about you, coming after you, when you become the Naomi Osakas, the Kyrie Irvins, the black race in this country, remember that you were bought with a price. Therefore, you have value. And the person who values you is the only value that matters. I'm just saying.